Hi everyone, and welcome to another weekly energy update, a general tarot guidance taking a look at how this week's energies are likely to play out in our lives, individually and both collectively. Now, to be totally honest with you, especially from a collective perspective, well, these cards mean pretty much the same as we had last week. So, if you remember, last week was pretty intense because the card spoke about chaos, turmoil. This is where it gets really tense, it gets really heavy, and it will be rather difficult to look at what is happening in the world. So again, this is a collective perspective through very optimistic eyes because physical reality on a 3D level might contradict us regardless of where we would like to find the good and the bad. Now, of course, as I said, this is just from a 3D level. If we go to a certain high, a certain spiritual high, and we see the big picture, so not really just the now, well, we can see that it does make sense. This is basically how a massive world change, a massive world crisis has to look like. So, of course, there has to be inconvenience. There has to be situations which apparently don't have a solution right now. And the situation has to be tense and almost desperate for a lot of people. And before it gets better, it has to get worse. So we have to muster the strength and the urgent need to not have a choice basically, but to project our optimism, project the future that we need to create. It is not just like now, it is actually a need because things are getting that heavy. So we need to muster this strength and force the breakthrough basically, because when times are so very karmic, again we're after the solar eclipse, that the new and the solution and all the good stuff, the big picture where this is going, well, it's not going to be handed down to us on a silver tray. We kind of have to co-create it, and that means a lot of effort, and sometimes that effort is actually quite painful, quite hard, because we have to be that much aware. So as they say in my culture, when the knife already touches the bone, it's so deep in the wound, that is meant to awaken us that we just simply cannot tolerate this kind of normality that we're living right now anymore, because it's harmful for us, harmful for our children, for the future generation. This is not the kind of world that we want to leave after us. So there is no other way. If we want to change it, we have to start changing ourselves and then projecting that which we can accept as a future into the cosmos. And this picture is so very important, and we need to be aware of this all the time. Because, when we're in the dark, when we're in the fear, when things genuinely don't look good outside our lives, so we can be as well as possible. But, if everything that surrounds us is not so good, chaotic, breaking down, instability, then it is only the big picture, it is only the wisdom of the future that can actually help us. So again, I'm not going to be focusing on the collective expression all that much. Simply said, what these cards are showing us, the Six of Swords reversed, the progress is backwards right now. So we're in that loop where certain progress that we achieved collectively speaking, and everyone's included in this, every institution, organization, countries, etc. Well, right now it's going a bit backwards, the new variant and all the complications and lockdowns, and also the apparent inequality that the vaccine has created, and basically the split of the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, the strong duality, the two basically, and this is how we're heading to the year 2022. All the twos are very, very significant. The numerology of next year is 6, but 6 is formed of 2, 2, 2. So there's a very, very strong duality in the very fabric of the reality that we are stepping into next year. And this is basically how it begins. And this separation basically is also the not so favorable expression of the two, but fortunately, where there is a negative side, there also has to be a positive side, and that means people rediscovering each other, forming pairs, bonds made very, very strong and stable. So basically, some people will find themselves fixing their marriage, fixing their alliances. Of course, those couples who need to split because karmically they're very incompatible, they will probably do that and then find their appropriate partners who they resonate with right now, so to speak. So there's a lot of good in this as well, but first we see the bad expression. This is how the stage is set. And then naturally we're also going to have further economic problems, and the astrology supports this. Venus conjunct Pluto, so perhaps the legal part of this is going to suddenly change. Certain instability, stock markets and stuff like that, up and down, not being able to predict or even intuit where all of this is going. So a strong material instability. And then the Ten of Swords, well, that means people had enough. That means that in some places, people have truly reached the maximum limit of their tolerance. So that further means unrest. That means protests. That means rebellion of any kinds, including, swords as mental energy. So that means legally petitions and a lot of stress and pressure on authorities. But perhaps authorities are not going to respond very well right now because they will actually misuse their power. And then there is this judgment, and that's also very symbolic, that because it means that whatever happens, or better said, continues to happen this week and will probably be the same next week and all throughout December, is also very symbolic. Almost, it feels fated. And when negative events, scary events feel fated, well, that is an eye-opener of what it is exactly that we need to change within ourselves, but also change the way that we are doing certain things as a species. And if we are not receptive, if we don't want to listen, well, then chances are it keeps on repeating and repeating and repeating until it sinks in that the universe does not tolerate a certain behavior or something that we do because it goes against the greater harmony, and ultimately it corrupts us as a species, so it's not really okay. And there's two ways about this. Either our leaders, our representatives get the picture and start changing it, but if they're not all that receptive to the karmic mirroring of what it is that we're doing wrong, then it's up to people to force them to change their ways. So it's that simple, really. So in conclusion, I think I can basically conclude the collective expression that whatever this week as well will reflect to us is that freedom, especially right now, is more or less an illusion, because no one's really free, and chances are where things are going, well, it's kind of the opposite of freedom. So this is again how spirits are gonna be stirred up seriously until there's a confrontation of some sorts. Now, from an individual perspective, this doesn't really look as bad, because there is a lot of breakthrough once again, but it's actually supposed to be that way, because what the astrology of this period, this December, and the first 2 months of next year is producing is a breakthrough. Of course, that breakthrough is very difficult, very stressful, very, very hard, but the universe keeps on insisting that even if it's almost impossible, we still need to keep on pushing, because this is the duality. The obstacles are higher, or better said, stronger, more impassable than ever, but so is our strength. And right now it's not a matter of what we want. like it or not, we have to embody our strength, because that's the only way we can survive with dignity and with honor a world crisis. So the Six of Swords reversed, combined with the Three of Wands and the High Priestess, for some people this is a very significant energy, because it means that an opportunity, the Three of Wands, or like an offer, an invitation, maybe something that you were seeking and it entered your life not so long ago. For some people it was in the past 6 months, but you couldn't either use the opportunity, you couldn't honor it, you were not in the condition where you could actually work with it. It was nice and all that, but either it is that you had to decline it, or you just couldn't do anything with it and it just, went away. And something similar, or either that very thing, returns into your life, and you might be asked the question if you want to do it again, or if you're ready, if you can work with this. So something positive is knocking on the door, and chances are you actually are different, and your life setup is maybe slightly, even if just a little bit different than it was when that opportunity, maybe it was in the summer or the beginning of the year, that was waiting for you and you couldn't take it. Now you are much readier, if that even makes sense. So a lot of people will think very, very seriously if they want to use it, if they are ready, if they can actually work with it. For others, it can simply be a fruit of your labor. Maybe you have done something in the past 6 months or at the beginning of this year, and it just didn't come to fruition. Maybe you weren't paid, or there were delays, or even if your work was completed, you couldn't actually use it in a profitable way. Well, that returns and now it comes to fruition. It is almost like a delayed gratification, which will actually be very, very helpful, and it comes through as a delight. Now next we have the Two of Coins reversed, clarified by the Two of Cups and the Empress. Well, for some very lucky people out there, this is the best of news, because we can look at this Two of Coins reversed as something happening in your life which kind of destabilizes your daily routine, or something kind of shocks you from your average normality, and that shocking factor is someone, a person, in the best way possible. Maybe if you're single and looking, you'll be connected with someone who will surprise you, who will actually make you think, or better said, dream about a possible relationship. Maybe someone comes with a romantic declaration, or it could be that someone who you already know but never suspected that they have feelings for you or any interest just shocks you, and it comes in a way where you just didn't see this coming, not even intuitively. Now for other people, it might not necessarily need to be a romantic partner, but especially if you wanna work on a certain project, or have a business idea, or you're already doing something, maybe it's a surprising partner, a collaborator, or a client, a customer, someone who offers you something to work with together, or you to work for them, or you to work on something for them. And they might offer you much more than you could possibly imagine. So it's a really positive, big surprise, where it comes in the form of a person with something to put down on the table, if you know what I mean. And either it's money, or it's love, or it's something, regardless of what it is, that delights you and that changes your situation in a very, very positive way. The Empress, after all. Especially if you are working like a freelancer or something like that, and you haven't had work for a couple of days or maybe a week, or you're just waiting for work to come your way. It can be a big one. It can be something that will truly be useful for you for the close future. So not just the now. It's not just a quick fix. So something quite profitable. But of course, if you are not single in an established bond, so to speak, maybe your partner benefits from something lucrative, business or an inheritance or something, and naturally they will share it with you. So a greater well-being. Now we have this Ten of Wands clarified by the Chariot reversed and the Moon card. Well, this does represent our most urgent problems, our blockages, everything that really, really frustrates us, and we cannot move forward with that in the now, in our present. And this also suggests that, like it or not, we have to surrender certain things, even if they are very, very important for us, even if we worked towards them, or even if we put in a lot of inner work, regardless of what that means to us personally. There are certain goals, desires, what we want to accomplish, that we have to surrender right now and just pass it on to the universe for the right timing to occur, because chances are we are going to be awoken, like a rude awakening, if you will, that right now it's beyond our capabilities, it's beyond our situation. Right now we can make the best of what we have right now, and those smaller opportunities or whatever the divine sends our way to help us, but we have no control over the big breakthrough that we need to accomplish. Of course, that doesn't mean that we are defeated. It just means that we need to work with, chaos, basically. We need to work what the Wheel of Fortune or the Russian roulette kind of sends in our lives in the now. These energies are going to be more stable, way more different later on next year. But for now, all we can do is be in a position of serenity, the prayer of serenity, to do exactly that which we have power over and strength at, to surrender that which we are totally powerless with, and the wisdom to ask and embody the wisdom to know the difference between the two, what we have to surrender and what we must not surrender in any way, shape or form. So for a lot of us, this is going to be the big contemplation of this week. It's almost like a decanting of our desires. We have to approach this with a very down-to-earth attitude, rationality and logic, because that which simply will not happen, we have to put it on the shelf. But that which is actually susceptible for further energy input, ambition, work input, we can actually keep on supporting that in our lives. And also, this is the beginning of Venus retrograde, so this is part of the bigger picture. There are going to be things that we will definitely surrender in the next 3 months of our lives when Venus retrograde ends. So we need to be aware of that this is a game changer. It was a game changer from a material perspective, social, situational, legal, etc. But this is where the emotional part also comes into play. The way we feel and our value systems, even our attitudes and highest philosophies regarding love, partnership, what is worth our time and sacrifice and what is not. All of this is going to change profoundly in the next 3 months. And then we have the Judgment with the Three of Cups and the Nine of Swords reversed, both of them. Well, this kind of reflects our best efforts to stay out of fear. It won't be very easy this week, but this Judgment card is ultimately a really positive sign. It's the symbol of Pluto. That means that even if we're shocked, even if we have certain not so easy reality checks, exactly what I said before, that some things will be need to put back on the shelf, big dreams, big desires put on hold. It's actually wisdom. It is actually the truth. A truth that helps us move forward and not compromise our situations. So a disillusioning or maybe a certain kind of disappointment is actually a good thing right now. because it kind of helps us in a very practical and down-to-earth way to manage resources that much better, regardless if they're material resources, time, our energy, our well-being, etc. We really need to be good managers to make it gracefully right now. And finally, as divine guidance, we have the Three of Swords reversed and the Devil. This is kind of surprising because the Three of Swords reversed means looking at our fears in the eye and not backing away. This means as much as we're afraid of certain events, certain situations, or our own emotional states when we are frightened, we are not backing up this time, we're not running away, we're not even indulging in escapism and fantasy and everything's gonna be okay. We actually have this inner courage and inner motivation that whatever happens and whatever is in our lives, well, we have to face it, we have to conquer it, or accept the fact that it will conquer us, but that is definitely not the case. Especially if you're someone who's listening to this channel, you're not gonna be conquered by your problems, it's gonna be the other way around 100%. But it is exactly this attitude of fearlessness that we need. And this is also a dichotomy because we are afraid deep within ourselves. In our hearts of hearts, there is a spark of fear, but the attitude that we project is the opposite. We don't care because we realize that right now we must not care. We need to stay focused, we need to stay sane, and we need to stay balanced. And this is basically the symbol of the devil. We need to control ourselves. We need to control our instincts, our impulses, and as I said, in any way, shape, or form, be good managers for ourselves within our lives. If that means, to be our own therapist, psychologist, as in to help us manage our thoughts and our emotions and to make it stay as disciplined, as balanced, as sane and healthy as possible. But for other people, it can also mean managing their time, energy, resources, preventing burnout, preventing excessive fatigue, making sure that their physical bodies are in good condition. And for other people, naturally, it's money, job, physical resources, their work conditions, their conditions home, making the necessary efforts and also preparations to keep a minimal state of well-being, because that is very, very important. This is really not a good time not to have your basic needs met. This is where, in order to be strong, in order to be gathered and disciplined and, a good manager, your basic needs must be met in any way, shape, or form, because that is where strength begins. This is where you cannot sacrifice your minimal comfort, your minimal physical well-being, your minimal mental and emotional well-being. This is where you have to make compromises and give your being, especially your physical self, that which it needs without question, without going deeper into why do I need this, why no. This is where you just have to do it without questioning yourself. But this also represents that there's a tendency to kind of judge ourselves, because if, let's say, your body wants a bit of extra food and has cravings, you might say, well, it's gluttony or whatever, and then not really comply. Or maybe you need extra sleep, extra rest, you feel fatigued, you feel tired, and you feel guilty for resting because, it's lethargic. Or if you feel a little bit emotionally needy, you need an extra cuddle and stuff like that, attention, let's say. And then you think, oh, am I being a burden? Am I burdening other people? This is where the divine as guidance says that right now you have to give the Caesar what the Caesar needs. So banish all guilt and do the compromises that are necessary. So this concludes what the cards have to say for us for this week. Thank you so much for listening. and wish everyone a lot of inner strength and courage to overcome all difficulties that may arise. Thank you again. Until next time. Bye for now.